Welcome to this presentation where we are going to look deep into women hormonal imbalance, as well as how we can achieve the balancing of the hormones. And then we shall also look into the natural birth control plans that we need to practice and have. I believe this will be a very instructive class and presentation that is going to make us to evade the problems that we currently are experiencing with the artificial birth control pills and contraceptives. Well, I want to make a disclaimer that this video, for those who are listening and those who are willing to practice it, you must be someone who is married. It is not for those who are fornicating or who are committing adultery. It is for those who are following the word of God, waiting until they are married. And so if you're going to apply it in a way that is not accepted by the word of God, then you bear the consequences of the judgment of God upon you. We need to be obedient to the word of God and follow that which is very important. Sex outside marriage is prohibited. And so I welcome us to this, and you are going to find it so interesting because it is so educating, working with nature to achieve that which is natural and of good health to us. Well, so we are going to look at the menstrual cycle and understand it's the hormones that are involved, how they work, and how we can be able to make the body to work normally and function optimally as required to achieve the health that God has given us, and also to practice natural birth control mechanisms that are not going to harm us. So you are going to read with me through my screen. I believe you're seeing my screen. It is about menstrual cycle. Yes, so to begin with, menstruation is the shedding of the lining of the uterus, endometrium, accompanied by bleeding. It occurs in approximately monthly cycles, yes, throughout a woman's reproductive life, except during pregnancy. So during pregnancy, you don't go through your menstruation. Menstruation starts during puberty and stops permanently at menopause. And what is menopause? It is defined as 1 year after the last menstrual cycle, when you can no longer have your flow at the end of the month. By definition, the menstrual cycle begins with the first day of bleeding, which is counted as day 1. The cycle ends just before the next menstrual period. Menstruation cycle normally range from about 24 to 38 days. Well, and in my study, I'm going to cover from 21 to 36 days. Normally, a good cycle should be 28 to 30. Only 10 to 15% of women have cycles that are exactly 28 days. Also, in at least 20% of women, cycles are irregular. That is, they are longer or shorter than the normal range. Usually, the cycles vary the most, and the intervals between periods are longer in the years immediately after menstruation starts and before menopause. Then, normally, menstrual bleeding lasts 4 to 8 days. Blood loss during a cycle usually ranges from a fifth to 2.5 ounces. An ounce is equivalent to 2 tablespoons of blood. And menstruation, a sanitary pad or a tampon, depending on the type, can hold up to an ounce of blood. That is 2 tablespoons of blood. Menstrual blood, unlike blood resulting from an injury, usually does not clot unless the bleeding is very heavy. So we have some disorders that may cause heavy bleeding, like amenorrhea or dysmenorrhea. That is heavy bleeding, and this results from hormonal imbalance. The menstrual cycle is regulated by hormones, luteinizing hormone and follicle-stimulating hormone, which are produced by the pituitary gland, promote ovulation and stimulate the ovaries to produce estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen and progesterone stimulate the uterus and breast to prepare for possible fertilization. So we have to note these 4 hormones. Luteinizing hormone and follicle-stimulating hormone controls the cycle. And then we have the progesterone and estrogen that controls, they stimulate the uterus and breast to prepare for possible fertilization. So the body of a woman, as it is made in this way, wherein it needs to produce these hormones to control that system. Once there is a surge, an excessive surge or abnormality in the production of these hormones, where one is dominant to the other, a woman will have a problem. The menstrual cycle has 3 phases: follicular, that is before release of the egg; ovulatory, egg release; and luteal, that is after egg release. Now, there's changes during the menstrual cycle. At the beginning, when there is when the body has shed off the uterine lining, the follicle-stimulating hormone begin to develop, and it increases. It increases up to the point when ovulation is about to take place. And during that time, the follicles have been developed, and one of the follicles has matured. The ovaries will produce the ovum. The ovum is the egg of a female. And the hormone, luteinizing hormone, is going to surge in the system or in the blood. And it is what is going to cause the bursting of the follicles to release the ovum into the fallopian tube in preparation to meet the sperm. During that time, the ovarian cycle in day 14, which is typically the normal cycle of a woman, the ovarian cycle releases the egg. If it doesn't release the egg here, or not that it doesn't, it will release the egg, but when there's no fertilization, it will dissolve back and take it into the system. And this is always experienced by women after, if fertilization has not taken place, 3 or 5 days, you will see some whitish mucus stuff. That is the outer cell membrane of the ovum. It is dissolved back into the system. And in that process, when the ovum has been released, the uterine walls are ready to receive it. So what it does, it makes the corpus luteum. The corpus luteum is what actually is the beginning, the place where the uterine wall has in its lining developed a lot of blood vessels to nourish the fertilized egg. But if it fails, this embryo will, this corpus luteum will just grow and produce a lot of progesterone in preparation to maintain the pregnancy, as well as less estrogen will be removed. And that is here, the estrogen levels at this level after the fertilization or after the ovulation is lower than the progesterone level. Why? Because progesterone level increases at this stage after fertilization or after ovulation so that it can maintain the pregnancy. And it continues until at the day 26. From day 24, there is a reduction of these hormones, the estrogen and progesterone. And then at day 28 or at the end of your cycle, the uterine lining is shed off. So you can see during the ovulatory phase, the follicular phase, where the follicles that produces the eggs, manufactures the egg, is increasing during ovulation, but it reduces and again picks up to the time of the mid of the cycle, when it is supposed to produce the egg. At the same time, the follicles, or not the follicles, but the uterine walls are building up at this time. Maybe it's 6 days from 6th to 7th day of after the menstruation bleeding has stopped. It picks up the building up of the uterine walls up to day 14 or the middle of the cycle, and then it shoots up because after ovulation it is ready to receive the egg. Now, the menstrual cycle is regulated by the complex interaction of hormones: luteinizing hormone, follicle-stimulating hormone, and the female sex hormone, estrogen and progesterone. The menstrual cycle begins with menstrual bleeding, which marks the first day of the follicular phase. Now, let's look at the follicular phase. When the follicular phase begins, levels of estrogen and progesterone are low. As a result, the top layer of the thickened lining of the uterus or endometrium break down and are shed, and menstrual bleeding occurs. About this time, the follicle-stimulating hormone level increases slightly, stimulating the development of several follicles in the ovaries. Now, follicles are sacs filled with fluid. Each follicle contains an egg. Later in this phase, as the follicle-stimulating hormone level decreases, usually only one follicle continues to develop. This follicle produces estrogen. Estrogen levels increases steadily. Now, estrogen is a hormone that is promoting growth of the body in a female person is stimulated by the estrogen. Growth of the breast, growth of the fatty tissues, and complexion, the air, the texture of the air, all of these are controlled by the estrogen. But it needs to balance with the progesterone. Progesterone is a happy hormone. It makes the body to have good mood and to have calmness because it is a peace hormone. Estrogen is a growth hormone. It enhances growth. And so if it is high above the normals in the system, it will cause hormonal imbalance and it will tend to make the reproductive organ to have growths. The follicular phase begins on the first day of menstruation, bleeding, that is day 1. So we are going to count day 1 of the cycle from the day that you ovulate. But the main event in this phase is the development of follicles in the ovaries. Follicles are sacs filled with fluid. At the beginning of the follicular phase, the lining of the uterus, so the endometrium, is thick with fluids and nutrients designed to nourish an embryo. If no egg has been fertilized, estrogen and progesterone levels are low. As a result, the top layers of the endometrium are shed and the menstrual bleeding occurs. About this time, the pituitary gland slightly increases its production of follicle-stimulating hormone. This hormone then stimulates the growth of 3 to 30 follicles. Each follicle contains an egg. Later in the phase, as the level of these hormones decreases, only one of these follicles, called the dominant follicle, continues to grow. It soon begins to produce estrogen, and the other stimulated follicles begin to break down. The increasing estrogen also begins to prepare the uterus and stimulates the luteinizing hormone surge. So towards the end of the ovulatory phase, the luteinizing hormone levels increases in order to prepare the follicle to break loose so that the egg can be released into the oviduct. So you're going to see that as we look at how the natural birth control plan, we need to look at the luteinizing hormone. The luteinizing hormone is the hormone that is going to help us in controlling the going about the natural birth control mechanism using different methods. Yes, so on average, the follicular phase lasts about 13 or 14 days. So that phase of developing of the follicles, remember, after the immediately the shedding off of the uterine wall, the follicular phase begins in small levels. As day 7 peaks in, it shoots up. The levels of the follicular stimulating hormone increases, and until the day 14 or the mid of the cycle, when at that point the follicle is mature because it allows the growth of the follicle which manufacture the eggs. And then at that moment, from day 5, before the ovulatory phase, if it is 14 minus 5, there is 14 minus 5, we go to 10 or 11 days. So at day 11, day 10, actually, the levels of the luteinizing hormone begins to pick up. And that is something that needs to be noticed, how the body behaves and how the body reacts. And yes, so of the 3 phases, this phase, that is the follicular phase, varies the most in length. It tends to become shorter near menopause. This phase ends when the level of luteinizing hormone increases dramatically. The surge results in release of the egg and marks the beginning of the next phase. The ovulatory phase begins. Now let's go to the ovulatory phase. The ovulatory phase begins with a surge in luteinizing hormone and follicle-stimulating hormone levels. Luteinizing hormone stimulates egg release, which usually occurs 16 to 32 hours after the surge begins. The estrogen level decreases during the surge, and the progesterone level starts to increase. So you see where now there is the picking up and the lowering of these hormones. Now, in a 28 cycle, which is a normal cycle, from day 12 or from day 13 of the cycle, the luteinizing hormone levels will increase. That is 3 days before the ovulation. And at that time, even the body itself will tell you. So if someone has to be safe, you have to note this so that you don't come together at this moment. And even as we are going to look at the calendar itself, you're going now to see when last you should be very precautious. So the estrogen level decreases during the surge and the progesterone levels starts to peak. Why? Because progesterone will begin to prepare itself in maintaining the pregnancy. The ovulatory phase begins when the levels of luteinizing hormone surges. The luteinizing hormone stimulates the dominant follicles to bulge from the surface of the ovary and finally rupture, releasing the egg. The level of follicle-stimulating hormone increases for a lesser degree. And then the ovulatory phase usually lasts 16 to 32 hours. It ends when the egg is released. After 10 to 12 hours after the surge in the level of luteinizing hormone, the egg can be fertilized for only up to about 12 hours after its release. So you have about 12 to 24 hours when the egg is still viable within the oviduct. And it begins the time the ovulation takes place. And the surge in luteinizing hormone can be detected by measuring the level of this hormone in urine. This measurement can be used to determine approximately when ovulation will occur. Sperm live 3 to 5 days to an egg. So an egg can be fertilized even if sperm enter the reproductive tract before the egg is released. In each cycle, there are about 6 days that pregnancy can occur, called the fertile window. The fertile window usually starts 5 days before ovulation and ends 1 day after ovulation. The actual number of the fertile days varies from cycle to cycle and woman to woman. So when you understand this cycle, 6 days or 5 days before the ovulation, there should be abstinence. And 1 day later, there should be abstinence so that that period is phased off. Actually, we need to refrain like 6, you need to practice abstinence like 7 days before for you to be in a safer environment, because not a safer environment per se, but safer, a safer mode or way to make sure that you don't conceive if you are doing the natural birth control. At the same time, for those who want to conceive, you need to be studying the body so that during the time when you see the body temperatures beginning to rise and the mucus levels are increasing, that is the time to plant the seeds. And around the time of ovulation, some women feel a dull pain on one side of the lower abdomen. This pain is known as meatus tremens, literally middle pain. The pain may last for a few minutes to a few hours, and it is abnormal. It is a normal pain. The pain is usually felt on the same side as the ovary that released the egg. The precise cause of the pain is unknown, but the pain is probably caused by the growth of the follicle or a release of a few drops of blood at ovulation. The pain may precede or follow the rupture of the follicle and may not occur in all cycles. So we need sometimes also to be very careful to feel this pain, to know that you have ovulated. Egg release does not alternate every month between the two ovaries and appears to be random. If one ovary is removed, the remaining ovary releases an egg every month. The progesterone produced by the corpus luteum does the following. So after the fertilization has taken place or has not taken place, the body, because the progesterone levels had increased to prepare to maintain this pregnancy, the corpus luteum will be developed fully within the uterine walls. To do what? To prepare the uterus in case an embryo is implanted. And it causes the endometrium to thicken, filling with fluids and nutrients to nourish a potential embryo. And then it causes the mucus in the cervix to thicken so that sperm or bacteria are less likely to enter the uterus, and then causes basal body temperature to increase slightly during the luteal phase and remain elevated until a menstrual period begins. And this increase in temperature can be used to estimate whether ovulation has occurred. So there are signs that will tell you that the ovulation is approaching. The body temperature, basal temperature increases, which is normally taken in the morning before getting out of the bed. And if it is higher, slightly above the body temperature, +1 or +2, you know that the ovulation is approaching, or you are at the ovulation. At the same time, the mucus will be slimy and egg-like in color. And usually this begins from 5 days before you will see the mucus beginning to change its texture and its viscosity. So this is something that we need to look at. Another thing is the desire, your libido increases high, and you're sensitive to touch. And during the ovulation day, the breast tends to be very, very tender. In the luteal phase, that is after the ovulation. During the luteal phase, the luteinizing hormone and follicle-stimulating hormone level decreases. Why? Because their work has been finished. The ruptured follicle closes after releasing the egg and forms a corpus luteum, which produces progesterone. During most of this phase, the estrogen level is high. Progesterone and estrogen cause the lining of the uterus to thicken more to prepare for possible fertilization. If the egg is not fertilized, the corpus luteum degenerates and no longer produces progesterone. The estrogen level decreases. The top layer of the lining breaks down and are shed, and menstrual bleeding occurs. The start of a new menstrual cycle is now here. If the egg is fertilized, the corpus luteum continues to function during early pregnancy. It helps maintain the pregnancy. So you'll find here that the corpus luteum will continue to produce progesterone up to the point when, if fertilization has not taken place, the end of the cycle, it breaks off, and the shedding of the uterine lining begins, and that is the menstrual flow begins. The luteal phase begins after ovulation. It lasts about 14 days unless fertilization occurs, and ends just before a menstrual period. In this phase, the ruptured follicle closes after releasing the egg and forms a structure called a corpus luteum, which produces increasing quantities of progesterone. During most of the luteal phase, the estrogen level is high. Estrogen also stimulates the endometrium to thicken. So even though the estrogen levels is low, is high, it will be still lower than the progesterone. And its work is to thicken the wall of the uterine wall. And that is why it is also very important during the pregnancy, even though, although its level should be lower than the progesterone. Now, if the levels of estrogens is higher after, during the luteal phase, many women will develop problems of heavy bleedings or dysmenorrhea or amenorrhea that is accompanied with thick blood and heavy flow and a lot of pain. It is because the estrogen levels has actually done excessive thickening of the walls. The increase in estrogen and progesterone level causes milk duct in the breast to widen. As a result, the breast may swell and become tender. If the egg is not fertilized, or if the fertilized egg does not implant, the corpus luteum degenerates after 14 days. Levels of estrogen and progesterone decrease, and a new menstrual cycle begins. If the embryo is implanted, the cells around the developing embryo begins to produce a hormone called human chorionic gonadotropin. This hormone contains the corpus luteum, which continues to produce progesterone until the growing fetus can produce its own hormones. Pregnancy tests are based on detecting an increase in the human chorionic gonadotropin levels. When implantation has taken place, normally after 5 to 8 days, for that fertilization to develop and the processes of cell development and angiogenesis of these early stages is complete, the meiosis has completed, then implantation, it takes place. That means it travels from the oviduct or the fallopian tube to the uterine wall now, where it is going to be implanted. Some women may actually see the signs of implantation, that is having some spots in the inner garment, and it is a light purple or pinkish shade of blood that someone may think that he is or she is, sorry, is going menstruation again, but this is not the case. Implantation has taken place. In fact, sometimes it goes up to day 12 after the ovulation when the implantation takes place. But normally it is between 5 to 8 days when implantation takes place. How to go about natural birth control. Now, we have understood how the hormones interact and the parts they play in maintaining the hormonal system in the female reproductive system. Now, with that knowledge, we are going to look at how we can go about natural birth control. The hormones that we had mentioned, the luteinizing hormone, the follicle stimulating hormone, and the progesterone, and the estrogen. Now, we must look at three main things that are important here for us to make sure that we are able to achieve the natural birth control mechanism. Now, there need to be a balance of your hormones. And number two, you must master your cycle. And number three, there must be strict temperance or self-control. Now, we are going to look at how to balance our hormones. When God created man in Genesis chapter 1, verses 29, he spoke about the diet. And that diet is the one that is going to help us to maintain the hormones. And we need to eat plenty of fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables are phytoestrogen or phytoprogestin that are very important in balancing the hormones. And if we feed a lot on poultry products, eggs, we will develop hormonal imbalance because there will be increase of the estrogen in the level. If we feed on a dairy product, that is milk, we are likely to have hormonal imbalance, high estrogen in the system. And so the best approach to this natural birth control is maintaining a healthy diet, and that is plant-based organic diet. You need to take plenty of nuts because nuts help in repair and regeneration of the cells, as well as maintaining the good steroids in the system that help you to make the hormones, the reproductive or the sex hormones within the system. You need to take seeds like chia seeds, flax seeds, sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, pumpkin seeds that are rich in omega-3s and balances the omega-6 and the omega-9 we get from avocados. And that is so important for us to maintain the hormones. You need to have a lot of those foods in your diet. More so, if you want a good fruit for you, is fruits like okra, fruit like mangoes, fruits like avocados. You need to take them during your meal plan so that you're able to balance your hormones very well. Drink a lot of water. Water will help to eliminate toxins as well as remove high cholesterol in your system. And when you have high cholesterol in the system, it imbalances the steroids in your body, and that will cause estrogen dominance in your system. Do regular exercise. Exercise will help you to normalize the hormonal system. And also, a female person should not do very excess exercise. The best exercise that we recommend is walking, brisk walking. If you can brisk walk about 8 miles a day, you will be at the point of achieving the normal circulation or maintaining normal circulation of blood. And if you do excessively, like the athletes, you are endangered. You may develop a lot of, you can develop what is called PCOS, or you may be very lean, and being leanness is not good for a woman, because it may help you, it may interfere with your hormonal system. If you're lean, you're muscular, it means that the testosterone levels are high, which should not be so in women. If the testosterone levels are high in a woman, there will be low estrogen levels. And then that means that there will be a lot of mood swings and anger, and someone can even develop breast cancer. So you need to maintain the normal levels of your hormones by doing regular, moderate exercises. Avoid stress. Stress releases the cortisol that will increase your steroid levels. And so you may have estrogen dominance. You need to be in a peaceful environment, do missionary work, help people, do charity work, pray daily, read the word of God, listen to music, or sing or play music, instruments of music. It will help you to develop a healthy hormonal system, and shun away from evils like anger or gossiping or jealousy or having unforgiveness or bitterness in your heart. It will weigh you down and you will not be able to control your hormones. You need to be someone who trusts in God and does the will of God according to his word. You have to maintain peace with all men, without which you cannot see God. Now, you need to maintain your normal weight by eating rightly, wholesome foods, grains, fruits, vegetables, and nuts, and exercising and drinking copiously water. You will be able to maintain normal weight. How do I know that my weight is very low or is above the normal? You will divide the weight of your weight in kilograms divided by your height in meters squared, and that will give you the BMI, the basal metabolic rate. If it is past 25, it means that your body is having a lot of fat, or you are gaining a lot of weight. And if it is lower than 18, then you are lean, and that is not good for you. You need to maintain good weight. That is, if you divide your weight in kilograms and your height with your height in meters squared, you need to be oscillating between 21 to 23. That is a good body weight for you. And another thing is have enough sleep. Normally, enough sleep and rest help you to maintain the levels of serotonin in your system and melatonin in your system that helps to repair and regenerate the tissues. 2 hours before midnight is very important. And 2 hours later, after midnight, you can wake up and rise and begin doing your things. And you need to have a good sleep pattern of about 7 to 8 hours daily for your body to regenerate and maintain itself fully. Another thing is now number 2, mastering your cycle. You have to know how your cycle is. You must maintain a good cycle for you to have a successive natural birth control method. And this, we are going to use the calendar method to make sure that we succeed. And what accompanies the calendar method that makes it more effective? Now, you need to master your body. Know how your body behaves. Listen to your body. Be very keen for you to succeed in this. Help your husband as a wife to make sure that you obtain all the. Communicate every day. Share together what you are experiencing and what you are learning. Now we have 21 days to 35 or 36 days that some women are experiencing, but the normal should be 28 and should not pass 30 days. You need to maintain your cycles at 28, between 28 to 30. 28 to 30. That will be very good for you to control. If you have a short cycle, like for 21 days, it will be tricky a little bit to control or to have the birth control mechanism work in you. If you have a longer one, past 35, it will be very tough for you. So number one, to maintain a good natural birth control plan, you must make sure that your cycle is regular. If it is after 21 days, exactly after 21 days. If it is 28 days, exactly after 28 days. If it is 30 days, exactly after 28 days. And how do I maintain that? What we have just discussed before. So we have the cycle days and fertility window begins and the ovulation day. Now, those are the possibilities that we have here. If someone is 28, the fertility window begins from day 10 to 16. It means that before day 10, or the day to day 10, that is the 9th day should be the last time you people are coming together or having the intercourse. And then the ovulation, the possible day of ovulation is day 15 and ends at the 16th day of the cycle. So it means there should be a complete abstinence for about 7 days for you to be safe. So it means for someone in 28 days, the 9th day of the cycle is the safest day to end, or even the 8th day. Always I advise that it is better to now come together without hindrance after the ovulation. So what you need to master is the day of your ovulation. If you master it well and you try to track it down for 3 months and you find it's regular, then you will be in a position to control your birth very well. If you're 30 days between day 12 to 18, that is the fertility window. It means abstinence at day 10 or day 11. Day 10 is the safest for this cycle. And then after the 19th day, it means at day 20 of your cycle, that is when you begin to come back again. I believe you understand that. So if you master this, you will be in a good position to control, to have a successive birth control plan. Now, how do I know that I am in my ovulation? I've just mentioned before, the way the body behaves. You find that your sex drive is so high, beginning from your fertility window, and the 3rd day to ovulation, it increases, and during your ovulation day, it is increasing much. And you will also be studying the ovulation mucus buildup in the birth canal to know exactly what is going on. And we are going to study that here shortly. How do I know the normal levels of the hormones? The follicle stimulating hormone ranges between 3 to 9, and luteinizing hormone 2 to 10, and thyroid stimulating hormone is 0.2 to 4.7. We need to know these levels. And even if your thyroids are not working well, then you are in danger of having hormonal imbalance. And we have the progesterone, which is 5 to 20. The estradiol, which is related to estrogen, is 27 to 161. that is the normal ranges. The prolactin is 0 to 20. And AMH, that is concerned with the fertility or the number of eggs that a woman can produce, should be 0.7 to 3.5. So you can have a test some of the times to know your hormonal levels. Now, how do you detect ovulation from cervical mucus? Now, you need to know that when it is dry or sticky, you're not ovulating. And when it is creamy, your ovulation may be coming. So you need to be very keen. In the morning when you wake up, you should be checking all this to be sure, so that you can know when you are beginning your abstinence. The ovulation, when ovulation is very close, when it is wet and watery. And normally it begins 5 days before the ovulation and increases when it remains day 3. In fact, from day 3, the third day, to the ovulatory phase, ovulation day, it will be very wet and watery, because normally when in the agricultural world, when it is raining, there's a lot of seeds germinating, and when it is dry, few seeds germinate. The same principles we apply in the natural birth control plan. So you need to avoid or abstain 5 days before the ovulation day, and master this first, and then you begin practicing this. When it is very wet and stretchy and resembles a raw egg white, then that is the ovulation day. You never risk to come together that day. And you wait for 24 hours, and then you come back again. Now, for this to work more effectively, you need to have these ovulation test kits. They help you to know exactly how your body is. You need to invest in this. Never guess if you are not sure. If you are not sure, never guess. Have this ovulation kits and begin testing from day 10 if you are having the 28 cycle, 28 to 30. We begin testing. Follow the cycle that I've given here before. Follow this one to know actually when you begin to test during your fertility window. And then you need to know how to test. The procedure is very early in the morning, pee on some urine tins or test tins, and then you need to dip it about it should be about 10 milliliters, 10 centimeters, no, 10 centimeters, 10 millimeters for about 10 seconds. And then after that, you need to store it. Like if you have these ovulation kits, they are not having the fix, the top there, but you will just dip it and put it in a place and wait for about 10 minutes. During 10 minutes, you will be seeing a change. Now, this is how you're going to interpret your result. When it is negative, what is going to take place is that you're not going to see some line at the T level, at the test level. This is the cutoff point. It means that luteinizing hormone increases at this, if it surpasses at this level of cutoff point, it means that now it increases until when it will be having a double line, that is bold double line like this. It means that your ovulation has taken place because the level of luteinizing hormone has increased. Let me repeat again. You dip it in the water, or not in the water, in the urine, very early in the morning when you wake up. and dip it for 10 seconds and then allow it to rest when it is lying flat on a surface for 10 minutes, then come back and read. If you see some line are beginning to be shown at this point, it means that your ovulation is approaching. And until the point when you will have double bold lines that resembles the cut point, it means that your ovulation has taken place. And then you need to test again after that, after maybe 12 hours, to see when the line has phased off, the test line has phased off. Then you will know that the ovulation has ended. And then you are now safe. This is so important for you. Invest in this and you will never be disappointed. And then, as explained here, when it is negative, the luteinizing hormone levels in urine are below the cutoff, which implies that the peak has not yet been reached. It is advisable to repeat the test daily. The concentration at the positive level of the hormone luteinizing is equal to or greater than the 25 MUI per milliliters. The ovulatory peak is close and the chances of conception are greater. So it means that your ovulation, the ovum, is about to be released. Well, with that understood, we are going to now the birth control methods using the natural remedies. And here the technique of the principle is maintaining your progesterone levels high and having your estrogen levels low. To a woman whose progesterone levels are ever high, she cannot conceive. So you need to know the foods that are going to maintain your progesterone levels. Foods like cashew nuts, almond nuts, and seeds like chia seeds and flaxseed, and fruits like avocados, foods rich in zinc, vitamin D, vitamin C, foods rich in progestin like amaranth leaves and seeds, lettuce, spinach, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, kales, cauliflower, and foods like jute mallows, Malabar spinach. These are very important for you. Jute mallow is very important in maintaining pregnancy because of the progestin levels in it. You need to lower foods that are high in estrogen. So you need to have a study on the foods that are rich in estrogen and foods that are high in progesterone or progestin. Those are the foods that you want to eat, because even in the conventional world, the birth control contraceptives that they give are high in progestin, and that progestin is what helps in controlling the birth. So they concentrate the progestin hormone in those drugs, and when you take them or implant them into your system, they are able to make sure that your progesterone levels are ever high. So this is what we are going to do. We are going to use herbs that are high in progesterone and lowers the estrogen levels. So one of the best one is wild yam. So take 5 capsules, or that is about 5 tablespoons of of wild yam. You take it daily for 30 days. During this time, have no unprotected sex. After 30 days, keep taking 5 capsules 2 times daily. So this preparing your body to have high progesterone. And then after that, after those 30 days, mix the following ingredients together. Then take 1 tablespoon in 1 cup of water to make a tea. Drink 2 times daily. Wild yam, 5 tablespoons. False unicorn, 2 tablespoons. Saw palmetto, 3 tablespoons. And sarsaparilla, that is rich in cotton hormone, 4 tablespoons. And then ginseng, 2 tablespoons, and black cohosh, 1 tablespoon. This will help in maintaining the progesterone levels high, and it puts you in a pregnancy state, or the hormonal state is like during the pregnancy state, and so you are able to control naturally the birth. And other herbs are like ashwagandha, the chest tree, evening primrose, chestberry, Kigelia africana, and gotu kola. All these, if you mix together, are able to actually bring you into that state. One of the techniques I've applied is use of cat's claw. If you drink the tea of cat's claw, both the man and the woman, it is able to control the production, lower your testosterone levels. But we don't want our testosterone levels to be lowered so low. You need to normalize it. But also you can reduce the force of the spermatozoans in the system by taking cat's claw. And also you need to be in good diet. That is the man. The man also needs to be very healthy for us to work on this. And then we need to have temperance. Temperance is very important. A spouse or spouses that are not temperate will always mess up. Spouses that are indulgent will always mess up. You need to be exercising lots of self-control, because self-control is going to help you a lot to abstain. And abstain, as I had said before, knowing the cycle, understanding your body, having the test kits, and then eating well and making sure that all things works. Talk together, communicate, and know what to do when you are approaching this method of birth control. I believe that we are blessed, and this is very important for you. As I said before, it is only for those who are in marriage. No, those who are committing adultery or fornication. If you do it outside marriage, you will be answerable to God. May God bless you.